This is Mason Web TV, powered by HCC.
The following is a paid broadcast presented by the Mason County Republicans Women's Club and Central Committee. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of Mason Web TV, powered by HCC, MasonWebTV.com, Hood Canal Communications, its advertisers, or sponsors. Appearances on this broadcast do not constitute an endorsement.
I want to welcome you to our Candidates in the Park this year. It's a little bit different than it has been in the past, but we're going to make it work. Bill Wells has provided us a wonderful music. Appreciate that every year, Bill. The city has worked with us to get this plan to allow us to go forward with this event. So what the plan is here is for each of us to congregate in groups of no more than 9 around a number, and the candidates will go from group to group and visit with you for 6 minutes, and then there will be a 2-minute break while they go to the next one. So if you could congregate around a number, you'll be able to hear the candidate. Otherwise, you may not be. After the candidates will be introduced by our 35th District Representative Drew MacEwen and candidate for Mason County Commissioner Ted Jackson. Once they introduce the candidate, they can find a group, go to a number, and start at that group for 6 minutes, and then a bell will ring. Who's got the bell? Terry's got the bell. And then you'll have 2 minutes to get to the next one. Wherever you start, you go to the next number in chronological order for the next round. Oh, okay. I don't know how to make it louder, but we also have Dedrick Allen recorded live streaming it on Mason Web TV, so thank you for doing that. For those who can't be here in person. So now I want to get started and introduce our 35th District Representative Drew MacEwen, and he will call on the candidates to get us started, and he will be followed by Ted Jackson to call on the rest of them.
Thanks. Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Great day to be a Republican, right? We're happy. Unlike that other side that's always moping, complaining. We've got something to do, get this country going, get this state back on its economic feet, and together we'll get that done. It's my pleasure to introduce our gubernatorial candidates and our candidates for the 10th Congressional District. Real quick, I also want to give a shout out to my seatmate, Dan Griffey. He can't be here today, but he and I are busting hump for you guys and doing everything we can for this district, and we appreciate your support. So I know we've got a number of candidates for governor. A lot of you have already decided and you're in somebody's camp already, but I just want to make this plea to you. If you're tired of a 30-year one-party rule, then in 2 weeks, when this primary is decided, whether your candidate has won or not, let's unite around the nominee and let's defeat Jay Inslee. And I am committed to that, and I hope you'll join me in that as well, because it is the only way we're going to turn the tide in this state. We have to bury our differences and move forward. So with no further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce the candidates we have here today running for governor. Chief of Police from Republic, Lauren Culp. And is Phil here? Phil Fortunato, are you here? Okay. Former Mayor Joshua Freed. And Anton Sakharov. So if you gentlemen will please find one of your spots and get started. And then from the Congressional 10th District. Oh, missed one. My apologies. And also here for running for governor, Tim Hyman. Sorry about that, Tim. Didn't see you. And running for Congress in the 10th Congressional District, we have Ryan Ingram and Nancy Slotnick. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ted Jackson. Let's get it done, Republicans. Let's have a great day, great election, and let's keep moving forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Ted Jackson. I am running for County Commissioner, District 1. I'd love to say thank you to the flag that's flying directly behind me. After 30 years in law enforcement, that flag has a special meaning to me. It is my honor to introduce our 6th Congressional District candidate, Elizabeth Castlemeyer. Thank you, ma'am. For Attorney General, we have Matt Larkin and Brett Rogers. Thank you. And then my pleasure for Lieutenant Governor Marty McClendon. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Appreciate it.
Okay, so here we go. Joshua. 23 years, we have 5 kids, Caleb, Emily, Janie, Simon, and Levi, 21 years old down to twin boys that are 14. Really focusing on the race, making sure that we get our economy up and running again after having just 2 weeks ago the highest unemployment rate in the nation, and people are waiting for 8 weeks to get their unemployment checks, and yet we're bankrupting our own unemployment system, sending $1 billion to a Nigerian fraud ring. We're in a desperate place here in Washington State, and I think our governor is inept and unable to be able to move us forward. So for me, it's about reopening our economy. I don't think we should have ever had essential versus non-essential. What we need to do is get government out of the way, reduce the 57,000 pages of regulations that put a pressure on small businesses. The first bill that Jay Inslee signed this year was an increase in the business and occupation tax, further putting pressure on small businesses. I ran and served on Bothell City Council for 12 years, 3 different terms, and served as mayor over the largest revitalization of a downtown in Washington State. We recruited $450 million worth of private investment. I'm a small business owner, been doing that for about 15 years. Also served on the King County Mental Health Advisory Board. Most recently, 2 years ago, I ran Initiative 27 to ban heroin injection sites in Seattle. Also, I'm a co-sponsor and lead contributor to Referendum 90, which is to end comprehensive sex education. And now, as of this week, the lead contributor to Initiative 1114, which is to limit the emergency powers of the governor to 14 days. So my hope and prayer is that I get to be governor here come January, should I earn the trust of the voters of Washington State, but I'm willing to still contribute to limit those powers, because the powers are inherent in the people, no doubt about it. But my wife and I are dedicated to service, been serving around the world for 21 years with the International Deaf Education Association in the Philippines. We built 150 homes there after an earthquake, and also been serving in Kenya, building health centers as well as drilling wells for the Maasai tribe there. I am looking forward to moving forward, getting our economy moving forward here in Washington State, and addressing the drastic rise of crime. Under Jay Inslee, crime has increased exponentially, where rape is up by 65%, murders up by 41%, and we have a homeless problem that he has not addressed. If anything, he's actually made it worse, with leaving a broken mental health system and letting the most vulnerable among us to wander the streets across our state. But I might have time for a question. I don't know. I'm trying to go fast.
You got 3.5 minutes left.
3.5? Okay. Any thoughts, questions?
I really liked your videos from Chaz.
Oh, great.
That was really enlightening, and you know, I really like what you're doing. My big question is that you're well known on this part of the state.
Right.
You know, it's that same old argument, but it's proven true with like Bill Bryant, Dino Rossi, you know, really great guys that we've run.
Mm-hmm.
That the statewide name recognition kind of failed. So I'm just wondering, how will you get beyond?
Well, I believe I'm the candidate that actually has the exposure and the ability to do so, because I served on King County Mental Health Advisory Board. I served on East Side Transportation Partnership Committee. I've been involved, obviously, in politics for 25 years as a PCO, an area chair, and a vice chair of the 1st Ledge District. So a true conservative Republican, both fiscal conservative as well as I'm pro-life, pro-Second Amendment.
I've got a gold Honda Accord.
So do you think
license plate Alpha Quebec Papa 1053. You're blocking the gate in and out over here.
50% of the state's population.
A gold Honda Accord. You're blocking the gate over here. Please move your Honda.
And so 10% of the state population is east of the mountains.
Yeah.
But I've spent time in every county, so I've gone to all 39 counties, actually many of them multiple times over the last several months.
I think the way that Inslee's been acting is kind of act in any candidate's favor.
Yeah, for
He's
sure.
just been a jerk.
Well, a lot of the counties are feeling that they're ignored by our current governor, who really represents 3 counties in this side of the hills. So I'm going to open up regional offices of the governor in Central Washington, Eastern Washington, Northwest Washington, Southwest Washington. All hold office hours and really be present for the voters of Washington State. Yeah.
The homeless, what are we going to do about them?
The homeless, well, there's 2 big contributing factors to homelessness. Number 1 is drug and alcohol addiction. Number 2 is unaddressed mental health issues. So Western State Hospital was decertified in July 2018. Now 30% of the homeless are struggling and not getting the help that they need, but 80% of the homeless are addicted to drugs and alcohol. So under a Freed administration, we will enforce the laws. If you're using heroin, as I even saw yesterday when I was downtown Seattle, you're going to go to jail, or we're going to turn you to Pathways to Recovery Treatment Center, which is a new public-private partnership. And we, the government, will provide Evergreen State College, for instance, as an underutilized government facility, and then bring in nonprofits to provide the people-on-people treatment, detox, recovery, job training, because we already spend $1 billion a year in the homeless industrial complex, and we have to show the resolve to enforce the laws, at the same time, love our neighbor and pull them out of a pathway towards suicide. But I'd appreciate your vote.
How much interest or attention are you going to give to the social engineering and programs that are implemented by INSA?
Well, a lot of the indoctrination happens in the schools, which is why I started Referendum 90 to end comprehensive sex education. All 294 school districts are being, the kids are being indoctrinated. For instance, my oldest daughter, she's 19, she was at UW Bothell. They told her in her second week that she needs to start calling the trees by their proper pronouns. So we've lost focus in our schools. It needs to go back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. Stop the indoctrination of our kids and corrupting their minds. It's a bad direction.
School board, I was really happy to see that get double the
God bless you.
Please proceed.
Thank you. That was fun.
Now go to the next number.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Bless you. Where's the 2?
I think it's over there. I think it's backwards. Okay. This is Ryan, and he's running for Congress in the 10th district.
10th Congressional. That's
10th
me.
Congressional.
I know you. You look so familiar.
Yeah, with her.
How are you? I'm Ryan. Let's go around and shake hands, Tiffany. There you go. That's who you got. Are you guys together? Yeah. Trevor, how are you? I'm Ryan.
Tell them.
Shake hands. How are you today? How are you? Good. How are you? Are you in our district? It depends on when you are. The 10th Congressional. So, Gary.
Yeah.
Connie is telling you.
No, we're not 10.
Oh, we're in the 6th.
They're in the 6th.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all probably 6th, so you're probably 6th. Oh, sorry, we're all 6th.
We're all 6th.
You want to sit down and take a breather?
No. I'm here to get
The camera is on you. You're live.
Because we met at a
Same thing here. Same meeting.
the PCO one? Yeah. Way back before this whole catastrophe happened?
we're PCO.
Who are you running against?
17 other people. It's an open seat right now. So Denny Heck retired. And
Oh, good.
They should have shot that son of a bitch a long time ago.
Just for information, did you want Denny Heck to speak before the House?
a little bit of it.
I watched the whole thing.
I couldn't watch very
You gotta have a lot of pep going.
And I also watched the second speech. And you know what? What the first thing I said? You know, I hope Danny Heck did not write that speech. He embarrassed us.
Probably did.
I mean, it was bad. I mean, really bad.
Look at his ad. As if the lieutenant governor has anything to do with federal politics. Brad Cohen was my friend for 40 years, and I know what the lieutenant governor does. And they don't have anything to do with what the president does. And that idiot's got something about how great he was and how many times he kicked Trump's ass, etc., etc. That guy is a jerk.
And what direction would you? What direction would you head if you had nomination?
What is my direction?
Yeah.
There's the first on everything.
And social engineering, social justice, law and order,
Law and order,
education,
Education, well, as far as education, I'd like to get rid of the education at the federal level, like run state, so the states have and so, but I agree. Fund it yourself. If you want funding, that's the cost of the federal government. And it's true, this is we need X amount of money to help offset the amount of money they've already made to help with our schools so that our children can do X. Okay, great. And then I want to see your agenda on what you're going to be teaching. You want to get federal money, and you can just teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. So if we get rid of the whole board up there for education and relies on the states, now the states have to ask for our money, and then we can hold them accountable.
Exactly right.
So that they stop indoctrinating. Yep. That's the whole thing. I mean, they're creating their own army right now, indoctrinating people to hate America. You see it.
Indoctrination or conditioning.
I've got 8 grandkids in the Shelton School District.
Absolutely. Thank you. But don't give it to these guys. It's
you know, it's just too bad that.
Well, what is this? Where's geography?
We were raised in the greatest years this country will ever have. The war babies, us 1946 to 55 babies, had the greatest life, earned more money than anybody.
There you go.
Before or after. It's just, I mean, there were so many of us.
This is for Ryan? Yeah, we're not in this district.
Yeah, we've already talked. I don't even know these guys.
Okay.
Yeah, they harass me enough.
Oh, really?
What's the biggest change you would make or your goal after you get elected?
My goal is to go into as much as I possibly can to expose everything that's going bad and all the money that's being stolen from people. As far as in Congress, you can do all sorts of bills and co-sponsor and push stuff that is good for not only the district but the country, bringing back manufacturing, working to do that, bringing back pharmaceuticals that are consumed by Americans, deregulating industries. And that's very big.
How are we doing that money?
Taking care of our veterans. Our veterans, as George Washington says, I would make this quote, people who join the military will see how the veterans are treated, and that would be the deciding factor whether they join or not. If we don't treat our veterans the way that they should be treated, we'll have less and less people getting into the military. We have less and less people in the military, and we have a weakened military, and therefore we can be taken over, and our freedoms now go away. Right now we're having a massive divide in our country, as we see, with everything that's going on. There's propaganda being paid for by China, Iran, the Soros, Bill Gates, the Foreign Council, what are these guys? So I just started reading about these. Foreign Council of Affairs. Foreign Council of Affairs. They're not even a government organization, but they control all of our foreign affairs. It's unbelievable. They have 4,000 people in this group, and they're like a who's who of people who steal our money. It's awful. They started the UN. They want to take away everybody's guns. I mean, the reason why we're a free country is we have 100 million militia here in our country, and because of the COVID, it's probably bigger now. So you can't find guns anymore. I am. No. They want to assault our ammunition. I mean, imagine if we didn't have any guns, what would happen? Do you think the government would take 2 seconds before they start going door to door and arresting people?
Yeah. Obama tried to take all of our ammunition away. He did a pretty good job there for a couple of years. But those of us that had 6,000 or 8,000 rounds didn't have to worry about it.
Well, they're trying to pass a bill in Congress right now. It puts 14-day weight limits on ammunition. You have to have certain federal IDs to buy ammo. You got to make sure they can't get after the guns anymore. They're regulated. So what's next? Bullets. You can't use bullets in guns. They're like this. A little club. Stick. Nothing. They're useless. It's important. It was made. All this was made the way it was made for a reason. Our republic. This is our republic for a reason.
What is a good way to get the state of Washington back to a two-party state?
So you're talking about...
Yeah, I don't understand how... I don't understand this.
Right away.
The top 2 voters get...
The jungle primary?
Yeah, I don't understand this. I don't know how it was implemented, and I don't know why Republicans even accepted it.
Money.
Yeah, they crammed that down our throats.
Time to move on to the next group, candidates. I know it's kind of hard to hear the bell, so I will bring it into the microphone.
After this, come and find me. We can get a nice long conversation for coffee.
You won't hear the bell again for another 6 minutes.
Hey guys. What are these for? Beepers, all right.
It's intimidation.
It's intimidation, right. We're at number 1. I'm Marty McClendon. If you guys haven't met me before, I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. Probably the most overlooked and unappreciated office in state government, but it's probably the most crucial in this election. 24 years of Democrats. For those that don't know, I'll say it first of all. I'll give you a little history, but it's about you. This election's about the future of our kids, about what kind of future we want to leave. I think that this is the last opportunity, the best opportunity we have to turn the state red, but I think it's the last opportunity we have as well to actually rein back in on control. So I'll say that. My background is I grew up in Eastern Washington, Quincy, Wenatchee, and Grand Coulee. My parents were ranchers, construction workers, and farmers. Okay, mom's families are all farmers, corn, cantaloupe, beets. My dad was all ranchers, not very rich ranchers, but ranchers anyway. Eagle Scout, small town boy, Grand Coulee, went to UW, pre-med, spent 13 years in healthcare, worked open heart surgery all across the Puget Sound area for about 13 years. Met my wife, who's a nurse, been 30 years. We had our son, decided that we couldn't all both be on call every other night and every other weekend, so I entered real estate 21 years ago. About 15 years ago, I started managing. I manage all the prudential across the West Sound. Now I'm the statewide broker for Redfin, so from Vancouver to Spokane, about 800 licensed agents. But being a small town, hardworking, I've also pastored a church for 6 years, had a statewide radio show for 6 years as well, that about 2 million listeners, talking about the issues. I say all that because those are all skill sets that bring people together to actually get things done. Common sense solutions is what we need. Lieutenant Governor, like I talked about it, is unique to Washington State and unique to the nation because it doesn't run with the governor. It's separate. It's both executive and legislative. It's really important. On the legislative part, you preside over the Senate, which is important because you decide what comes to the floor, when it comes to the floor, what comes to the vote, what needs amended before it does. So nothing comes to the floor that doesn't get pulled by the Lieutenant Governor. There's a check on really, really bad policies. You get more people in, you can't veto, but if it never gets voted on, it's essentially a veto, right? Yeah, Lieutenant Governor chairs the rules committees, and so when we're meeting, how we're voting on things, when those things are really important power there as well. Lieutenant Governor breaks all ties. You would think in a supermajority Democrat majority there wouldn't be any ties. 32 times this last session there were ties. Every single tie went in favor of the Democrats, but there were still ties. But not even the Democrats didn't like all the bad bills, right? Lieutenant Governor as the executive, though, most people don't know this. Lieutenant Governor is on a three-person board to do all the state's investments, money, retirement funds, treasurer, governor, lieutenant governor, okay? It's voting. So if you have a Republican treasurer and a Republican lieutenant governor, you outvote the governor on where the money gets invested. Really, really important. What's important, too, my background, is Lieutenant Governor chairs the economic development and trade. So all of our trade that goes out through our ports, the $13.5 billion worth of ag we do every year, which is half of our revenue, is advocated for and supposed to be led by Lieutenant Governor, and it has not been. I'm the only guy on the candidate on the ballot that actually has a farming background, that actually grew up in Eastern Washington, that actually will advocate for our ag, our farmers, our ranchers, our orchards, that kind of stuff. It's important to grow that, but that's revenue. And timber as well. It's really, really important. Lieutenant Governor, though, outside of that, has a choice to work on things. And I think for far too long, they've been sitting back saying, hey, I'm the governor and waiting, right? When the governor leaves, I'll be governor, and so forth. It's true. When he leaves the state or something happens, you are the governor with full power. But, you know, Brad Owens, who was lieutenant governor for 20 years, focused on giving speeches about keeping kids off drugs. Okay. The current lieutenant governor steered money towards an Outward Bound program, getting disabled kids into a program, mentoring and hiking. Okay. I have 4 things that I think we could do that should have been done a long time ago. Having the bully pulpit of the lieutenant governor's office, having the legislative authority to actually present legislation and pull it to the floor for a vote, you can do a lot more. The number 4 is housing. We have a 300,000 home shortage in the state. The cost of housing is going through the roof. Part of that is a quarter to a third of the cost is regulations and red tape. The lieutenant governor points to the building council and works with it. I want to pass legislation that actually removes and streamlines the permitting process statewide so you can actually drive the cost of housing down so we can build more housing and have more affordable housing. It's a smart way, free market principles. Number 2, I should say, The number one indicator for success for every kid in the nation is two-parent households. There's been a war on our values, war on families for far too long. I'll use the bully pulpit of the office to go into communities and I look for ways to free up nonprofits and churches to do their job to help restore families and restore fathers to households. Really important. Top two, accountability. Accountability is, we always talk about it, and they give lip service, nothing ever changes, right? There's a Democrat bill that's actually been proposed that I bring to the floor. Every state agency has a budget, right? At the end of every fiscal cycle, if that state agency doesn't spend every last dime, penny, and nickel of your taxpayer dollars, they lose it for the next cycle. So every fiscal cycle, they're blowing money on things they don't need, right? That's dumb. So what they do is they hire lobbyists with your money to lobby the legislature to grow their budget for the next cycle. That is incentivizing the wrong behavior. There's a bill I'll pull for that actually fixes the budget so they cannot lose it, but incentivizes them to save money. A portion will go back to the employees that found it, a portion can be rolled over, and a portion can be tied to school construction funding. Of course, my number one issue, which I didn't get to, is opening up our school education reform to explore more of the trades. So middle school and junior high, having our kids be exposed to wood shop, auto shop, and metal shop again, partnering with those places so they can actually know about it. 70% of our kids that don't go to college don't have nowhere to go. And of the ones that go to college, 30%, 50% drop out, and 54% that actually finish college are underemployed or unemployed in the degree they went to school for. The job market is flooded there, and yet we have 7.1 million jobs available in the trades that we have to advocate for.
You mean those gender studies degrees?
Thank you, Marty.
Yeah, they're not doing it, right? Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Marty.
Yeah. It's too short. Right over there.
Number 10.
All right. I see a couple of familiar faces here. Okay, how are you? So, I'm Nancy Daly-Slotnick. I'm running for U.S. Congress for the 10th Congressional District. How many of you know whether you live in the 10th or the 6th?
We're 6th.
6th? 6th. Are you all in the 6th?
Pretty much.
So you can relax a
You
little
can
bit.
practice.
So,
You can practice.
right. Just practice.
Now you're under pressure.
Now I'm under pressure.
It's what the districts outside of the one you're running for is going to make
You
a
got to
decision.
get us to like
I've already
commit
told
voter fraud.
There you go. See, it's all good. Apparently everybody here except for you lives in the 6th.
Now I'm in the 6th too.
Oh, are you in the 6th?
I'm in the 6th too. Yes. But you have the camera and this is live.
Oh.
So please
Oh,
tell us
I had no idea. Oh. Now
Now it's
see,
back to pressure.
see, I thought the pressure was off. Okay.
Please, Nancy, tell us, what are you going to do?
All right, so I'm Nancy Daly-Slotnick. I'm running for the 10th Congressional District. I never expected to seek public office, but a few years ago, I considered the 25 years that I served in the U.S. Army to be my public service. I know a couple of you are veterans here, right? Yeah. So I considered that to be my public service. I came home, went into business with my husband, and was looking towards retirement. But a few years ago, I became more and more disturbed by the level of division going on in our nation's capital. And also, I was very disturbed when the incumbent for the 10th District engaged in a sit-in on the floor of Congress to take away my Second Amendment rights. And I said, it's time for him to go. And kept looking to see, I said on his Facebook feed, I'm never voting for you. But the next year I was looking at the Tacoma News Tribune's endorsements, and I saw that they endorsed him again, which wasn't a surprise because they're kind of a liberal paper. But it was the next thing they said that his opponent in 2016 was a man named Jim Postma, who was 82 years old and had run 6 times for office. And I later found out also had raised no money at all and didn't put up any signs, didn't really run a campaign. He just put himself on the ballot and put an R behind his name. And I said, we've got to get some better candidates. Who can we get to run for this seat? And as I started looking around at people I knew in public office and eliminating why I knew they didn't want to run for Congress, I came to the realization that if I wanted to see this change, I needed to be this change. So I stepped up to run. In 2018, I made the mistake of running as an independent because I was tired of the division in Congress, and I decided that was the solution. I will own that mistake. So I came back to my party and said, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to do it with my Republican, my lifetime party of being a Republican behind me. So I filed last August, and nobody was more surprised than I was when Denny Heck announced his retirement in December. Now, he went on to run to file for lieutenant governor. That's a whole nother story. But once he filed, once he said he was retiring, there are 19 candidates running for this seat now. But I think I'm the one who best represents this district. I'm a 25-year Army combat veteran in a district where the largest employer is JBLM, and where we have the 10th highest number of veterans of any congressional district in the nation. And so I would definitely be there to represent the veterans. I also am the mother of 4 successful young adults, one of whom has special needs and works on JBLM. The other 2 are also veterans. So I'll be there to support the veterans. And I'm a small business owner, so I know what it is to put your life savings on the line and try to build something from scratch and not have another salary or somebody else paying your paycheck. So I think I can support all those groups really well. My 88-year-old mother-in-law lives with me, so I'm going to support Social Security. Social Security has a lot of problems. It's not keeping up with the price of inflation, and it's also not sustainable for future generations as it is now.
Okay, candidates, please move to the next number.
All right.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right.
You're wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, very good.
And I obviously didn't keep that short.
That's everybody else.
Number 1. Hey, everyone. Sorry to keep you waiting. There's a bottleneck back there a little bit.
That's a whole another issue.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is the infamous number 1.
We are number 1.
You are number 1. Front and center. So I'm Matt Larkin. I'm running for Attorney General. I want to beat Bob Ferguson. You guys want to beat Bob Ferguson?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He is a train wreck. 2 days ago, he filed his 69th lawsuit against the president. Think about it. Just let that number sit for a second. 69 lawsuits in 3.5 years. And we're paying for it. That's our tax dollars being spent to do that. That's outrageous. And he's not focused on this Washington. That's the problem. Over the last 8 years, we've seen homelessness, drugs, crime run rampant. And these numbers have gone up every single year under Bob Ferguson. That's not okay. He's focused on the wrong Washington. He's obsessed with suing President Trump and then sending fundraising emails about each lawsuit. Meanwhile, we have real problems here that need to be solved. And you see it now more than ever. In the news on my drive here today, they're taking over Seattle again. They're breaking into police precincts. They're murdering people in the streets. And guess what our state's chief legal officer, the Attorney General, is doing about it? Nothing. He won't even speak up about it. He won't even mention it. And it's a strange silence because he should be the leader. He should be the one supporting our police. He should be the one enforcing the law. And he's not. He's out to lunch. But guess what? He'll be happy to tell you how he just sued President Trump again. He'll blast that from the rooftops. But he won't stand up for our citizens here. And that's the problem. So a little bit about me. I'm a lifelong Washingtonian. Grew up here. I went to Gonzaga for law school. And then I went back east and served President Bush in the White House. So I worked for the President of the United States as a speechwriter and as an attorney. I served through times similar to this in 2008. If you remember the economic collapse that devastated millions of Americans, I was there for that. I was in those tough meetings in the Oval Office with him, deciding policy and crafting communications about that. And that's why it's so pertinent today. To have someone in this office of Attorney General who gets it, who's been at the highest levels of government figuring that stuff out. But more importantly, so Bush's last day was my last day. Obama was getting sworn in a mile down the road on the Capitol steps. I was moving my stuff out of my office, which was just crazy. It was crazy to be a part of that. Sad, actually, a little bit, because we didn't have the House, we didn't have the Senate. We lost the White House to a guy who was walking on water. You remember Obama?
He was a deity. And I moved back to Washington State and started raising my family here. I became a criminal prosecutor. I prosecuted in Pierce County and I prosecuted in Spokane County, so I prosecuted on both sides of the mountains. And I did that for a while and then decided it was time to go to my family's manufacturing company. So we own a company, about 550 employees in Bothell, and we make underground water pipeline products. So we bring clean drinking water to places all around the world. But the most important part of that is we make our products here in Washington State and in the USA, and that's how it should be. We haven't outsourced anything. So I've been doing that for the last decade as chief legal counsel. I've been leading there, making real decisions, running a company. I'm new to politics. I'm a fresh face. I don't have a long background of baggage. But what I do bring to the Attorney General's office is a passion for my 4 kids. I have 4 little kids. We've got a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And it goes boy, 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 and a little cupcake on the end. So we got our girl and we're done having kids. But that's my passion. That's why I'm leaving my family business now. I'm taking a year-long leave of absence to pursue this race because I don't feel like I can sit on the sidelines anymore. Someone needs to stand up and stop yelling at the TV and actually do something about it. So I'm going a year without a salary. My family and I are making some sacrifices to do this race. I've stepped out of the business, but it's worth it. I mean, look around you. This is the most beautiful state on earth, most beautiful place on the planet. I'm so proud of Washington, and I'm proud to be a Washingtonian. But I want my 4 kids to be as proud of this state as I am. And it's not headed that way. We can't even take our kids to the local park anymore because there's too many needles, there's too many tents, there's too many bottles. I'm worried what they're going to see in the park. I'm worried they're going to get assaulted in the park. My wife is afraid to walk to the grocery store from her car now. When did that become the new norm? It's gotten worse every year for the last decade. And someone needs to do something about it. We need an attorney general who's willing to stand up and fight and enforce the law, period. We have absolute lawlessness in our cities right now. And all they're doing is talking about cutting police even further. I'm out of time, I guess. We need to defend our police.
Individually, once the whole process is done, again, it's done to every group.
Good question. Not a lot right now. But I have a crime plan where I'm planning to lobby the legislature. So the Attorney General can prosecute cases. Into what? They need to be dealt with strong. And I can do that. I just can't do a city job. But I'm going to lobby the legislature to allow me to prosecute city prosecutors. I can do county prosecution. I just can't do city. So I want to open that door up so that we can end the Trump lawsuits, put those attorneys on local prosecution and say we're waiting by the phones, people in Seattle. We're here to help. And then we'll see if he calls or not. It'll be very interesting to see what happens when we make that.
He needs more than help.
What's that?
He needs more than help.
He needs to be replaced. Fortunately, he's elected.
Can state override city?
Yes.
Okay, you can use that authority to get things online, right?
Yes, there's a preemption doctrine.
Yeah.
So yes, we can step in and do something about some of those disasters.
So that's the direction you will be heading. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Instead of letting
we're not going to be
things running wild like that.
Exactly right. Thank you guys. I'd love to have your vote. Thanks for listening.
So the current Attorney General is using a blind eye to what's happening in Seattle.
Oh yeah. Either he doesn't care or he's not looking. But either way, it's not how it should be. Either way is bad. We need leadership.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Hey, thank you very much.
I don't know if we're shaking.
Thanks, Matt.
Nice to meet you.
Take care. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Anybody else?
Yeah, thanks.
It's like my turn.
My turn. So I'm Brett Rogers. I'm also running for Washington State Attorney General. I've been saying tough act to follow with Matt, but I'm going to give him my best. So I'm running for office because in 2016, no Republican ran against Ferguson. That's not how our system of government is supposed to operate. I'm a first-time candidate, along with Matt. Never run for office before. I'm a licensed attorney. It's the price of admission to run for AG. So I told myself back in 2016, if it looked like nobody else was going to run, I was going to, because we can't win if we're not even on the playing field, right? So in April 2019, I announced, and I've been campaigning since then. I figured with no political experience, I better get started. There's a huge learning curve. But so what I bring to the role, aside being an attorney, is I've got 20 years of law enforcement experience. I worked as an officer for 2 years back in Wisconsin, and then 18 years with Seattle PD. I worked there from 96 to 2014. During my career, I worked my way through the ranks. I left SPD as a lieutenant. While with SPD, I conducted internal investigations for 4 years. After I left SPD because my wife and I went to Australia for about a year and a half. When we returned in early 2016, I worked for Seattle Public Schools doing internal investigations for them. So government accountability is really a passion of mine. So I want to really combine my experience fairly and impartially enforcing our state's laws with my government accountability experience, and I really want to turn things around for our state. I want to take the AG's office, which right now kind of looks out, and in my opinion, Ferguson used that office to punish people. If people violate the law, they deserve to be held accountable, but they don't need to have their lives ruined, their businesses ruined, because Ferguson doesn't agree with you, doesn't like what you did. I want to kind of turn the focus inside and make sure that our state is doing the right thing and holding our state government accountable. And that's really going to be my main focus. When something goes wrong with the state, Bob Ferguson circles the wagons and he tries to make issues, lawsuits, whatever, go away as quickly and quietly as possible. I would like to take the time to investigate those situations, figure out what went wrong, fix the problems. If there was misconduct by a state employee, that person needs to be held accountable, even if it means they lose their jobs. And that way we can fix these problems and not have them keep reoccurring and keep getting lawsuits. A real good case in point is DSHS CPS. For about a 10-year period, they've paid out over $100 million in settlements. So we can fix several things at once. We can save our tax dollars. We can do better for our kids that are in the foster system and that are otherwise in the CPS system. We can make their lives better too. So there's a lot of work to be done here in Washington rather than Washington, D.C., how Ferguson sues the Trump administration nonstop. I could continue to talk about myself, but you have me in front of you, so are there any questions?
Yeah. So you guys obviously, the candidates, you, Matt, you guys obviously speak, here and there. You guys see each other at all. Listen, I saw empty shows. This is the first time I've heard from you, and that's not on you. That's just the service that I run. My question is, if one of you guys makes office, would you guys, would you be willing, let's say that Matt, would you be willing to actually work in the Attorney General's office as well?
Yeah, that would be his call to make as Attorney General. Yeah,
you know what I mean, and it's really hard to choose between you guys, but
right. We're friendly competitors. We are in good terms. But if he makes it to the primary, I'll absolutely support him. He said the same thing to me privately. I don't know if he said that to you just now, but yeah. So yeah. If he had a position for me there and thought I could do some good, I would absolutely consider it anyway.
I just think it would be great for you guys to still work with each other. One of you obviously can't put all together. Right. But I think it would be great if you guys work together after that happens.
So what would be your plan for
I personally think that I think I'm being streamed, so I got to be a little bit careful. Got to make it through the primary first. I don't want to pick a fight and put my family in unnecessary danger at this point. However, I believe that Antifa is a domestic terror group, and we definitely need to be dealt with. They need to be gone after their finances, find out the ringleaders, they're committing crimes. Those people need to be behind bars. Absolutely need to hold those people accountable.
Yes.
Okay. So, it was nice meeting everybody. I'm sorry our time was so short. But,
what do you feel about the one close the county jail?
That's a huge mistake, along with defunding the police. It's one of the stupidest ideas I've heard of. I don't know if anybody has been in Seattle lately, but the police resources there are stretched so thin as it is. The prosecutors are barely prosecuting crime. If you close the jail and defund the cops, it's going to get exponentially worse.
But the perpetrators are
And this is at the same time, the left wants to restrict everybody's ability to defend themselves, right? Second Amendment rights. So they're really kind of squeezing from both sides. And something's got to give. got to get some better people in office. Yep. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Iman, $30 car tab man.
My peeps.
That'll never happen.
Number one. You guys are number one. Oh, anyway. Here, throw those around. You don't have to like me to wear the sticker. Sincerity is optional. This is politics. So I'll just do Q&A. It's actually more fun. What's your name, man?
Dave.
Dave, good to meet you. Tim? You, sir?
Tony.
What's that?
Tony.
Tony, good to see you.
You're friends with Tessa. I'm friends.
Oh, very cool. Love Tessa. Love Tessa. So anyway, yeah, anything at all. $30 tabs. Why I'm better than Inslee, although that's a low bar to clear.
What are your first? What are your first concentration areas for cutting taxes? What are your primary?
$30 tabs. I mean, come on. You know, we voted for it 3 times, yet Jay Inslee said we were confused. Anybody confused by $30 tab? Show of hands. Anybody at all? I mean, seriously, when Jay Inslee says this is confusing, it's like illustrating how dense the guy is. It's so frustrating.
He has a budget to maintain.
What's that, Tony?
He has a budget to maintain.
He does have a budget to maintain. He's got to have that $1 billion to send to Nigeria, doesn't he? You know, that's, you got to save up the money in order to send it to Nigerian princes. So the first priority as far as the next session is, first of all, I want to set a Guinness Book of World Records on vetoes. Because attacks on the Second Amendment, veto. Attack on the First Amendment, veto. Tax increases, veto. Expansions of government, veto. It's probably going to be a Democrat-controlled legislature. And right now, Inslee's just signing everything, one after another. And you know, income tax, carbon tax, that creepy paper mile tax. I mean, man, I don't want a state patrolman in my passenger seat keeping track all the times I'm breaking the rules and mailing me a ticket. I mean, it's really frightening what he's got. Now, I don't have to convince you I'm going to be a better governor than he is. I mean, show of hands. Who thinks they would be a better governor than Jay Inslee over the next 4 years?
Potato would be.
A potato! A potato. My 12-year-old daughter, who I adore, would be a better governor. She calls him Snake, by the way. It's cute. Absolutely cute. But would I be the best candidate to actually beat him? And the thing that I've observed over 22 years of doing campaigns, 17 of them statewide, 11 of them are victories, all of them conservative initiatives, getting Republicans, Democrats, and independents to vote for my ideas. You get better at something when you do it. The other candidates, all good guys, but they've never run a statewide campaign, they've never won one. And so I want to make sure that if I win the election, I have all of them in the administration. I mean, they're all good guys. They all have their strengths and everything. But my strength is actually being, I think, a good candidate. Because I think our president showed us what a good candidate is it's not about getting everybody to like you. It's about disliking the other person a lot more.
And doing the job.
And he is much better at that. And it's not always pretty when he was running. I mean, he was on constant attack against Hillary. But the reality is a good candidate does that, and I have seen 22 years of Republicans running for office, and they are just nice, and they're civil, and they are running for second. And I don't want to run for second. I want knee-in-the-groin politics, just going after them. You raised our taxes $52 billion when you said you'd veto. You ended up squandering $5 million on a vanity run for president. You ended up spending $1 billion to Nigeria. Now, when you're attacking like that, you're going to get attacked back. They said, yeah, but you took a $70 chair. And I'm going to say, no, I didn't. But I didn't send $1 billion to Nigeria. You know, you have to know that you're going to get the incoming fire. But all the stuff they've hit me with for 22 years, voters have factored all that in. They've seen everything get thrown at me, and they still vote for the ideas that I've done. Now, normally you might say, well, those were ideas. You know, now you're a person. It's like, I'm an amalgam of everything you've ever voted for. I'm the $30 tabs guy. I'm the limits on property taxes. I'm the one who makes it tougher to raise taxes, performance audits, limiting affirmative action where the government treats everyone equally. Jay Inslee literally said this. He said there's too many Asians on college campuses now, and we have to balance that out. First initiative I did was affirmative action. We want to put a limit on it. Government has to treat everyone equally. Their definition of racism is treating different people differently. If you're treating everybody the same, that's racism. Not from normal people. And he is so vulnerable this cycle, and I don't want to squander that opportunity with someone who's never done a statewide campaign before. I mean, they're all good guys, but I don't think they got that knee in the groin politics instinct that I've got, just because after 22 years of just being in the arena, you just get better at it. And I think being aggressive is what's really critical to chalk up a victory. I'm talking too much. My daughter tells me that all the time. Somebody else asked me a question. You look really familiar, by the way. Tony?
The Nigerian issue.
Yes.
Unemployment fraud.
Yes. Not an inside job, by the way. Wasn't an inside job at all. It was just an oversight. Just an oversight. The woman who did this, by the way, is a Obama bundler. And so he hires her. Why hasn't he fired her? I wonder if it might have something to do with the fact that he doesn't even want to be governor. He wants to move on, if he wins, to go and move into administration and stuff. And having a wealthy bundler, he doesn't want to make her mad. Not about accountability, yeah.
So Tim,
be excellent to each other.
We've met at a couple of milk conferences.
Cool. Oh, now that's the world I'm looking at.
Polly and I have also contributed to the campaign. But I've got friends in Seattle who are afraid to say that they are not, far leftists, right? But do you think that you'll do well in Seattle? How are your initiatives and things done there? Because you're getting Democrats obviously voting for your stuff.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just a Republican partisan.
Well, I mean, I do have an advantage. I hired a new campaign manager, and this guy's incredible. He's working every day to get me in the governor's mansion. His name's Jay Inslee, and he is an amazing campaign manager. Every day he's got a new way to boost my numbers, and every day it's an adventure. You wait for him to say mask, mandatory, and all that. Bottom line is, every candidate we've had lose statewide. How do I get Seattle people to like me? Doesn't work. What you do is you maximize your numbers outside of Seattle. How do you do that? By not pandering to Seattle. You just say, Seattle is crazy, but they are just crazy. We want to have enough crazy, normal people to offset the crazies. And I've done that. No, Bellevue. Although I was in Seattle yesterday, I was actually very proud of this. I want to prove to you that I'm a different kind of candidate, so I'm doing things while running. Not just promising and giving speeches, but actually doing things. I launched a recall on the Seattle mayor. And I gave this 25-minute speech getting heckled and jeered the whole time by the bad guys, and I stayed disciplined and focused, and I wanted to show you that's what it takes to win an election. It was fun. It was really awesome, and I had so many people watching my back because they saw that it wasn't fair and what was happening to me, and so they came to my aid. That's what you do when you're running for office. You put yourself in the breach.
Is that on YouTube?
It is. It is. Now, the sticker that you've got email addresses, phone numbers, all that kind of stuff. Now, there's Lauren Culp, though. Very, really brutal guy. Really brutal guy. Keeps doing bat and cleanup on me. Makes me look bad. No, he's a really good guy. So anyway, I appreciate you guys listening. You had one question. It looks like you were leaping. Everybody keeps kicking me out. It's all good. So anyway, thank you all. Thank you all.
What's the status of the state income tax and this carbon tax, which I believe is on its front burner?
It is. 4 more years of Jay Inslee, absolutely guaranteed. But Lauren's
about Tim Eyman.
But Lauren's really in favor of an income tax and a carbon tax. No, he's not. He's totally against taxes too. So anyway,
good to see you. See you, Tim. All right, you guys, you gotta hurry, right? Fast talking. So I'm Lauren Culp, candidate for governor. I'm currently the chief of police in Republic, Washington. Anybody been to Republic before?
Yes.
Yes, awesome, beautiful place, little mountain town, founded on gold. But I've been a lifelong resident of Washington State. I was born and raised in, where Chimacum's at, Jefferson County. Yeah, big city, right? Raised on a farm. My dad was a deputy sheriff in Jefferson County when I was a kid. And when I got into high school, they moved us to Eastern Washington to Republic. They bought a lumber yard and a hardware store. My dad got out of law enforcement. Met my high school sweetheart there. I've been married to her for 43 years this year. We've got two grown sons and 7 grandkids that live in this state, right in Olympia. That's where all the grandkids are at. So Barb's really looking forward to living in Olympia again, see the grandkids every single day. So at 19, I joined the United States Army. I've served in the 101st Airborne Division, served in the 2nd Infantry Division in Korea. I was a sergeant, I was a combat engineer, and went through drill sergeant school at Fort Leonard, Missouri, helped to turn civilians into soldiers. After 4 years in the military, Barb and I got out. We moved back to Olympia, And I learned the trades. I learned how to do concrete foundations and driveways and frame houses. Worked for other people for 3 or 4 years, and then in 1988 I started my own business in the construction field. Started out with nothing, 1 employee and an old truck. Built that up to where I had multiple employees, multiple vehicles, doing jobs all around Puget Sound, both commercial and residential. And then in 2010, a job opening came over for a police officer in Republic, and that's where I met Barb, where I went to high school. And I'd always dreamed about being a police officer. My dad was a cop when I was a kid, so I applied for the job, got it. I've been a patrol officer, been a canine handler, narcotics detective for 3 years. I was a sergeant of the force, and for the last 4 years, I've been the chief of police in Republic. And a series of events started happening that led me to running for governor, right? In 2018, in November, that anti-gun initiative 1639 passed in this state. And I was asked the next day whether I was going to start arresting 18 to 21-year-olds who I saw with a semi-automatic rifle. And I said, I'm not going to do that. That's against their constitutional rights. And the state constitution is even more explicit than the federal. Article 1, Section 24 says the right of the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired. So I wasn't going to violate my oath of office. I wasn't going to violate someone's constitutional rights. That got me on the national news. I was on Tucker Carlson's show. I was on Fox and Friends. I was on the Daily Ledger speaking about citizens' rights and why I stood up for citizens' rights. It's because of Article 1, Section 1 of the Washington State Constitution, which we should learn in grade school, right? Article 1, Section 1 of the Washington State Constitution says that the power is inherent in the people and government is there to protect citizens' rights. That's the first thing the founders of Washington State decided to write when they wrote the rule book for our government, right? And then Article 1, Section 7. No citizen shall be disturbed in their private affairs. We have definitely been disturbed in our private affairs, right? So I ended up writing a book in December of 2018. It's called American Cop. It went to #1. Became a #1 best-selling author, which led me to being invited around the state to speak at the Republican Party Lincoln Day dinners and gun shows and sportsman shows all over the state every weekend. In the spring and summer of 2019, I was traveling somewhere around this state, talking to citizens groups about our rights, the responsibilities of public servants, about the Constitution and the rule of law. And that led to people asking me to run for governor, because we need to get rid of Jay Inslee. We need somebody in there that understands citizens' rights and the role of our government, right? The government is our servant. Government is not our master, not our boss, not our employer. We, the people, have the power. Remember, Article 1, Section 1, the power is inherent in the citizens, right? So we don't work for Jay Inslee. We work for ourselves. So the way he handled this COVID thing, we know what he did, right? He picked winners and losers. He said which businesses could be open, which ones had to close. The next virus that comes around when I'm governor, because this isn't the first virus we've had, right? We've had viruses for eons. So the next time a virus comes around and I'm governor, here's how I'll handle it. I will have press conferences with the medical professionals to explain to the citizens what's going on, what we should do to protect ourselves, our family, and our business, and what might happen if we don't follow the medical advice. And as governor, have the supply chain for equipment and supplies that we need open as possible, and then let free individual citizens decide what's best for themselves, their family, and their business. Because that's how you govern a free state, full of free people, right? We're all Americans. We are free. We don't work for Jay Inslee. We don't work for the government. They work for us, right? I will have a firm grasp on the rule of law and the Constitution and citizens' rights. And the servant role of government is what we need to get back to. We need to get our government back within the confines of the rule book. Right now, Jay Inslee is acting like a referee in a football game. He's throwing the flag and blowing the whistle on every play and changing the rules all the time. We never know what's coming next. We don't know. Pretty quick, nobody would want to play football. Nobody would want to watch football, right? That's what's going on right now with our state government, because we're being governed by someone who decides what he thinks and what's best for us, right? Instead of following the rule book. Article 1, Section 1, Article 1, Section 7, right? That's what you take an oath of office to uphold and defend when you become governor. And Jay Inslee's never read it, or he doesn't understand it, or he doesn't care, or all three. I don't know. So that's where I stand, the rule of law. And that's why I'm getting such broad support across the political aisle, from Democrats and independents all across this state, is because I explain how the rule of law, when it's applied and enforced by our government, everyone's rights are protected equally. Doesn't matter your color, doesn't matter your sex, doesn't matter where you're educated or how much money you make. When the rule of law is applied and our government's within the confines of the Constitution, everyone is protected equally by the rule of law. Thank you, guys. I'm Lauren Colt.
Thank you.
Yes.
The South Dakota governor did exactly exactly what you were talking about. Let the citizens decide. The state gave recommendations, and they came through this thing pretty much unscathed.
Right.
And so I think it would be a big deal for you to, say that would have been the way you would have handled it too. Because a lot of us are just.
That's exactly what I said. Citizens decide.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Kreiselmeyer. I'm running for Congress, U.S. House of Representatives, 6th Congressional District against Derek Kilmer.
Okay, so 6 is ours, guys.
So let me tell you where.
Pay
Thank you.
attention. Yeah.
I'm almost out of these cards. Let me just pass this. Yeah, 6th Congressional District encompasses Mason. It's all of Mason, Kitsap, Clallam, Jefferson, Grays Harbor, and part of Pierce County. So it's the Olympic Peninsula and Kitsap Peninsula. So I am running because I love this country, I love our freedom, and our freedom is fragile right now. So we have to fight for it. And do we have any President Trump supporters here? Me too. So I am pro-Trump and proud of it. And I always say that the best thing we can do for President Trump is to give him U.S. House members who are going to back him and not attack him. So I'm going to support him in his America First and safety and security of American citizens agenda, okay? Whereas my opponent, Derek Kilmer, the incumbent, does not. Derek Kilmer, anybody know Derek Kilmer? Had any dealings with him ever? Okay, what's your impression?
Well,
Smarmy.
my impression is that he came and talked to a group of us once and said, I just got elected, I still have college loans to pay. For me, I'm moving to Washington, D.C., and not too long ago I did a credit check on him, and he's worth about $1.5 million. How the hell did that happen on a $180,000 a year job?
Right. Yeah. So he's very much, you're pointing to something important about Derek Kilmer. He's very much sort of bought off by he's got a lot of special interests funding him and corporations and stuff, and he's made hay out of that position. He is a career politician. I am not, but I do bring a 20-year background in. I have a PhD in special education, top 2% from the University of Oregon, and I managed and directed programs, multi-million-dollar programs for 20 years. So I'm good at evaluating projects, solving problems, identifying problems, coming up with solutions, and identifying fluff and fraud. So that's what I'm here to do. And what else can I tell you? So, clean up the house. Well, for one thing, so I'm standing for strong families, strong communities, and a strong country. So, for example, strong country are protecting our American sovereignty and the integrity of American elections. So I believe that we should be able to, must prove citizenship, not just residency, in order to vote. Okay? Right now, when I've spoken with our Secretary of State, Kim Wyman, about that, she said that there are some federal restrictions that don't allow for us to ask those questions. I would be for untangling those and make it so that only American citizens vote in American elections. It's only common sense. Thank you. Okay. And then for education, I'm for education, not indoctrination. So I know about that because I did spend 20 years in the educational system. That's what actually turned me to a Republican way back when, because I know that there are many, many programs and things going on in the bureaucracy that don't serve the end result that they're saying that they serve. So I am for getting government out of the business of indoctrination. We should not be indoctrinating our kids into socialism and atheism as they are currently doing in our public schools. The comprehensive sex ed agenda that's been rammed through in Olympia is horrendous, and anything that can be done on the federal side to give authority back to the states and really back to the parents. So I'm for upholding parental authority in the education of their own children and getting public schools out of the business of indoctrination. Yes, what's your question?
Would you be in favor of school vouchers to allow?
Yes. I'm for school choice. So parents are the ultimate consumers for the education of their kids. So I'm for private schools, vouchers, homeschooling, and just other.
Under your thought, would homeschoolers
they should be
get some tax credit?
Yes, I would be in favor of that for sure. And in fact, I think with all the schools being closed and being pushed to be closed, they ought to be getting a credit back. We're all paying for it. What are we getting?
Right.
So.
Are you in favor of charter schools?
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm. So what other questions do you have for me? Everybody's good. Yes?
Is there something that Derek has done that you really would like just to reverse? I mean,
Oh gosh, lots of
something that he pushed that.
Yes, there's many things.
There's probably many.
On the local level, on the sort of district level, and then on the national level. So let's start on the national level. He voted against the Infant Born Alive Protection Act. So I am a pro-life candidate. He is anything but. He is a darling of Planned Parenthood. He's for early, middle, and late term, and even post-term abortion. I am not. And so that would be something, I think that's an egregious thing. He voted essentially for infanticide. Okay? So there's that. He voted against the deportation of illegally here criminal gang members, such as MS-13. You have to have killed someone to be an MS-13. So if a gang member is here illegally, he was against deporting them. To me, that defies common sense. So I'm for protecting American sovereignty and American safety and security of our citizens. So, and then on the local level, there's a lot of things that he has not done for the people of the 6th district that he could do or could have done and has not done. So there's issues there too that are.
I think one of the reasons why you don't get a lot of questions from this group is because we are in no way supporters of Derek. You know, I mean, it's just.
Yeah. Well, here's how you can help me then, because it's very important in this primary that people know to choose Elizabeth Kreiselmeyer. I'm listed first on the ballot. It's easy to find. And my website is easy to remember. It's cleanupthehouse.com. My last name, Kreiselmeyer, has lots of vowels. I say just look for all the vowels, you'll find me. So, and there are 6 people in this race running. So it's very important to get my name out there. Tell your friends, share by social media. My website, my Facebook page is Elizabeth for Congress, spelled out F-O-R, Elizabeth for Congress. And then the other thing is go to my website, cleanupthehouse.com, donate there, and sign up to volunteer. Because you can be making phone calls.
It's time
we
to
have a
move
system
on,
that's very easy to just do voter outreach calls.
Just about
It's very
all the way
helpful in
around
this election. So thank you.
Talk to
Elizabeth
everybody.
Kreiselmeyer, cleanupthehouse.com.
I also want to bring to your attention the tables over here that have.
I made it, number 1. Well, I'm out of flyers, but I do have some business cards. I can go grab them just in a second. My name is Anton Sakharov, running for governor. I made a decision to run for governor because I couldn't accept our state moving towards socialism. And the reason why is because I've seen socialism. I was born in the country that had socialism, Soviet Union. My parents brought me here when I was 11. As Jewish refugees, we escaped Soviet Union. And I grew up in this country. I have a bachelor's in finance from San Jose State, master's degree from Johns Hopkins, and I've been a career project program manager in high tech. And what I saw happening in Seattle, I said, I can't sit and watch. That's unacceptable. I got to do something. I got to spread the message, because what we're heading to, as we see today, is no longer socialism. It's full-blown communism, dictatorship, and that's going to destroy our country. So I decided to run, spread the message. I'm running in very 3 specific core principles. Number 1 is cutting taxes and getting rid of making sure we don't have income tax. So I want to eliminate death and estate recovery taxes. I want to cap residential property taxes, and ultimately cut regulations so that small businesses can thrive. Number 2, rebuilding infrastructure. So working with our federal agencies, government, to rebuild our schools, bridges, and roads. And number 3 is safety. I support Second Amendment. I don't support sanctuary state. I called out to end sanctuary state on day 1 of my office. I will work with every city that is sanctuary to end that. I want to implement real school security by implementing real security perimeter around schools and hiring our veterans as security guards. I also want to solve the biggest problem, of course, is the homelessness and the drug addiction. And ultimately want our state to be safe for tourists and people alike, so they can tour everywhere and they go and see the city instead of seeing what it is down there today. So that's kind of my core 3 issues that I'm running on. Ultimately, I want our state to be saved, to actually vote for President Trump. I support our president from day 1, back in 2016 at the caucuses, and I haven't wavered. In fact, I'm the only candidate out of the major ones that is running as Trump Republican on the ticket, because I strongly believe what our president is doing is correct. And you can be assured that I'm not going to be the one where after primary they go and they turn their back towards our president, which we've seen in 2016. So you're not going to see that, because I fully support what he's doing, and I think his approach of making America great again should be applied to Washington. Now I'll open up for questions. Let me know if you have any. Go ahead.
So before the COVID disaster and Inslee's disastrous dictatorship that he's put himself into, our big problem was the homelessness and drug addiction. It seems like such an overwhelming issue. How would you approach this?
It's a huge issue. It doesn't have one single solution. The number one, what I want to focus on is saying it's unacceptable to have people sleeping on the streets. Making sure that there's no incentive for people who are outside of our state to come here, because that's what's happening today. Then we need to start helping people who are on the streets with getting them off the streets. Be that mental health support, drug addiction support, or they just need jobs, right? Let's get them to work. Ultimately, what we need to create is an environment where there's no incentive to sleep on the street, because today you either get money or your incentive is it's lawlessness, right? I can do whatever I want, nobody's going to talk to me. I can do drugs. That's unacceptable. We can't call ourselves we live in the best country in the world when we have over 1,000 people sleeping on the streets. We need to make sure that they're off the streets. So let's work towards getting the help that they need, which is mental health, drug addiction problem. But there's people who just need jobs, right? So let's cut the strings where are feeding people and offering free incentives without anything back, right? I want to introduce responsibility into our government, making sure that every single agency within our state has a real goal. Not to hand out free dinners, not to hand out blankets, but actually cut homelessness, right? Let's reduce homelessness. I was the only candidate who called out, let's cut it by 90% in 3 years, then it can be done. But if the agency's goal is to hand out free dinners, what's an incentive to cut homelessness? Because all they're doing is handing out free stuff. So I want to change the approach as if we're doing in private business. What is the real goal that we have?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It seems to me that when Obama was president, down in Oregon, Portland, I think, got an award for putting the most people onto welfare.
Exactly.
And so you're talking about incentivizing.
We cannot be proud of putting people on welfare, right?
Incentivize
school lunches, right? Schools always go, oh, kids are hungry. 20 years ago, we had 35% of kids who were on school lunches. Today it's 48. Why is that happening? We shouldn't be proud that we're feeding 48% of our kids with Microsoft and Amazon as our home. We should be saying, how do we get rid of it to make sure that nobody's hungry, not by eating, but actually by getting and earning.
In this school district, it's 68%.
There you go.
It's more profitable for schools.
But here's the thing: the agencies who are responsible for feeding the kids, their goal is to feed the kids, not to get the number down. And I want to introduce a method like in private business. There's a goal, you got to get to it. If you don't get it, you're fired. And our goal should be, how do we reduce that count? So, go ahead.
You came from a communist country. Isn't it just wonderful that those that have can help support those that don't? I mean, you sound really mean. Why wouldn't we want to feed the kids?
Because it's all about the opportunity, right? When we came to this country, we came with several $100s, and I knew 2 words in English, and I succeeded. I got my master's degree from top school in the world. I bought my 3rd house already. I have a great career. This country is about opportunity, not free handouts. Those who get free handouts never leave. They're stuck there because there's no incentive. There's no incentive. I know people who came to me and they said, well, we get free because they had a small child, they get free housing. And their housing is like $20 a month. And as soon as they start working, they lose that house. What's an incentive to work? Right? It creates a dependency, but guess what? It's a method of bribery because that person is going to vote liberal now. So instead of money, the bribe is a vote. And we got to break that cycle. We need to make sure that we have the opportunity, we're offering a way to earn your living, to actually step up and grow, rather than get on this program, that social program that you will never get off because what's an incentive? And you don't know better, you're stuck there, right? When you cut it off, you start to fight because you become hungry. That's the way to go. Go Go ahead.
Oh, no, I don't.
You had a question? No? Any other questions?
You guys just ask way too much. I don't know. You need to be quiet.
Ultimately, my last thing I think is very important. Everybody's talking about primary right now. You have to understand, we need to vote in primary who can actually win general, not who has the best support right now in primary, because that's not going to work. I'm in King County. I'm in high tech. I'm an immigrant. I can relate to a lot of people in King County who are in tech, who became U.S. citizens nowadays, right? They are forgotten. Right now, nobody's talking to them because they're not the hardcore conservative group. They don't even know this exists, right? We need to get that message to them. And that's what I intend to do. I hope to get that message so that we can actually flip King County or earn enough support to win in general. It's no longer about primaries. How do we win in general? And that's very important. So make sure whoever you vote is not who has the most support today from the small group, but who can actually win in general against Inslee. And I don't see any other candidate because, again,
I don't know if we have any more to go or not. Are there any candidates that haven't been all the way around? I think there are a couple, so we'll go one more.
I'll just one last thing. I put my whole career on pause to do this. You're never going to find somebody who earns more than the current governor, who actually risks their career, who's not a builder who can just go and continue building while they're running. I put my whole career on the line to do this, to spread the message. There's not a lot of people like that. They risk everything to do it because they deeply care, and that's what I do. I care where we're going. I care where my kids are going to grow up. You know, I might have trouble finding a job later on because of that, but that's later, right? I did it because I deeply care where we're going. So I hope I earned your vote. If you have any questions, I'll be a few more minutes here, and if you like, I'll go get some business cards and bring them back.
If you don't make it past the primary, you will still be spreading.
I will support any candidate who makes through primary if they don't back down from support of our president.
Will I still be, if you're on my Facebook, will I still be seeing more from you?
I hope so. I hope so.
I hope so too.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you have to understand. You know, I have to start working for work and all that stuff. But again, in terms of support, I'll support anybody who continues supporting our president because I don't want to repeat of 2016 when our primary candidate turned around and said they won't support. Running as a Trump Republican, I'm supporting. You know that for sure. But I'm not going to just blindly support anybody if they turn around and go opposite way. Thank you for following my Facebook. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
So have you been over at number?
I've been to number 2. Yes, I'll bring some business cards. I think we're done. Yeah, I'll give it.
You want to meet a superintendent of
The preceding was a paid broadcast presented by the Mason County Republican Women's Club and Central Committee. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of Mason Web TV powered by HCC, MasonWebTV.com, Hood Canal Communications, its advertisers, or sponsors. Appearances on this broadcast do not constitute an endorsement.
Thanks for watching Mason Web TV, powered by HCC.